Keep your hands and head inside the vehicle at all times. Buckle your seatbelts, check your mirrors, sit on back and relax. It's lights out and away we go for the Tall and Short of It podcast. Good evening, everyone. You're listening to another episode of the Tall and Short of It podcast. I'm your host, Justin.
And I'm Aaron. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Justin, very good to see you on this cold Wednesday night for a pretty fun episode. We've got a little prequel to the F1 race this weekend, the Mexican Grand Prix. We've got two great semifinal series that all went to full 5 games, or both went to full 5 games. And then we've got some Magic the Gathering that we're going to talk about towards the end. Justin, how's your week been?
Big time. Looking forward to the show. Good to see you too, sir. Happy to see anybody listening. Now, my week's been pretty good. I've got a lot to talk about. If you want to get right into the Rose Thorn Seed, we can do that, sir.
Sure, absolutely. So, first, before we do that, I do want to give a shout out to a couple people that have been listening consistently.
Heyo.
Shane and Colleen, we appreciate you guys listening. Then I think my buddy Luke also might be checking in periodically, and also that's pretty cool as well. So if you
What's up, Luke?
How's it going? But yeah, my Rose, Thorn, and Seed for this week. My Rose is that this coming weekend, Colleen and I planned a do-nothing weekend, which is going to be great. We every weekend, I feel like for the past couple months, we've had something going on. So we were like, we just wanted a weekend that we could relax. Like, if we want to go out or do something, we can, but we're not obligated. We don't have any set in stone plans for anything. So I'm very much looking forward to that. We're probably just going to hang out, cook food, watch some movies, and relax, which is much needed right now. So yeah, not too bad for a Rose.
Nice.
My Thorn is that I am kind of tired and a little worn out, so I do need that weekend. This week's been a little bit tiring between my one coworker is just a lot, and we are dog sitting right now, so the pup has a ton of energy, and being in a place that he hasn't been before and around people that he hasn't really been around before, I think he was having a tough time adjusting for a bit.
Gotcha. That's tough.
Yeah, so that kind of gave some issues earlier in the week, so I'm definitely ready for the weekend and all, but that's mostly it's just being kind of tired, worn down a little bit, so
puppies will do that, man.
Yeah, so hoping to get some of that energy back after this weekend and all.
Nice.
And then my seed is that Colleen and I have started to do a little bit of planning for the holidays and all, trying to figure out who and where and what we'll be doing during the holidays, and going places and all for family, which is kind of cool. It's also nice that we're on the same page of we don't have to do absolutely everything. We can kind of try and fit a lot of stuff in and everything and spend time with each other's families and all, but we don't have to just jam pack tons and tons of stuff in. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Coming up relatively soon. It's starting to get cold out. So
yeah, the chilly weather has been definitely a thorn. It's not the thorn, but yeah, it's not a fun one. We actually just took the ACs out today, out from the windows, just because it's chilly.
Oh yeah.
Put the the little cover up on the one at the office, because it cold air just creeps through. So yeah, we're batting down the hatches, that's for sure, for the cold weather. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to your staycation weekend. That's pretty sick. Now, do you think you and Colleen are going to check out the race at all?
Most likely.
Oh yeah.
There's the only thing that might be like interrupt watching it live and all is friend of a friend is having an Eagles tailgate. I don't know exactly what time they play on Sunday, so that's the only thing that might shake that up.
Gotcha.
Really, but otherwise, I'm hoping to be firmly planted on the couch. And also, if it's like cold and bad weather, I probably won't want to go anyway, and will want to just stay in cozy and warm. So definitely looking to watch the race this weekend. So we'll see if I can watch it live or catch a replay. So
nice. That's what's up. Yeah. On the note of tailgating, Ian had invited. Well, we were talking about a camping trip, and part of me was like, dude, it's cold. It's cold. And that underpinning reason and a couple others, I was like, let's go a little earlier in the season next time. Because I was like, that's tough. But yeah, man, dude, a lot to talk about for my Rose Thorn seed here. I'm super excited to get into it. So let me start with I'll start with my Thorn because it's an interesting one. So I was invited by Jeremy and Josh. Now these individuals are always changing the game. They're like you in ranked in league, and this is where I'm going with it. They're changing games all the time. They're playing different things, and they invited me the one night. It was after something. And I was actively like not doing anything. So I was like, literally, I could have just been like pacing in the room here, like not doing anything. He messages me and goes, "Hey, you want to play some League of Legends?" Or no, he said, "Hey man, we've been getting into some League of Legends. We should play sometime." And I said something. I was like, yeah, it's a pretty cool game. I don't have it installed right now. And he's like, "Oh, we just started this game, if you want to get in on the next one." And I would have loved in that moment to have it like a good excuse is like, oh, why I can't do this. I had no appointments. My shit was done. Like I literally I was free and available. So
you're not gonna lie to him or like
exactly. I'm not gonna lie to him. I'm not gonna duck out. Like fuck it. What's a couple games with the boys? A couple games with the boys was like the worst idea I ever had because they just started playing. I misunderstood how early in the process it was.
I thought you meant that they had just like started playing that night, like as in like we just hopped on, not like we haven't played this game before.
That's kind of what I thought as well. I was like, oh, cool. Like, they're just getting into it. So, like, me downloading this will not be a waste where we'll get one game in and then they're hopping off, right? Yeah. But they were low level. I'm not even sure they had Flash yet, brother.
Dude.
And I was like, oh no. And like we were having fun and laughing and blah blah blah, but it did get to a point where it was like, go next. Is there like a champion that I can just plug and play to just like get victories? And the other kid we were playing with were trying to explain to him like, dude, the learning curve is massive here. Mm-hmm. The learning curve is massive here. Yeah. And like, just, I won't go into the depths of it, but just like, and it was just a tough time being in that position again of like being with somebody relearning that or like learning that game. And I was like, damn.
Oh yeah.
Crazy.
I can't even imagine like, looking back at when I first started playing, how atrocious I was, and that was when the learning curve was much smaller. You didn't have all these different dragons and a Rift Herald, way less champions. There were like, fucking like 70 champions or less probably when I started playing. It was insane, and so like even then it was a lot, but to for someone, I mean, have they played like Dota before or anything like that? Or
I think they had, and there was this element of they were like, oh, this champion is just like, oh, it's just that. But like, I mean, just
yeah,
because it's the same skill set, like that
well, it's
doesn't
just
inform you about what their role in this game is, how to play. Like
yeah.
it was a lot, man. It was a lot, and
Well, and
I
that turning from like, oh, let's just have fun for a couple of games to like coaching sessions of like how to actually play is a very different thing than what your expectation was going into it.
right, and yeah, all of that. So like it was. I'll say this. I'll think about that next time, I'm invited and I may just go read a book or something cuz yeah, it was tough. But that was a just kind of like a funny Thorn. Moving on. So I have my Magic collection totally fucking organized, brother. So this
Nice.
is Rose and Seed it all together.
Okay.
So I had a bunch of boxes of like commons, uncommons, bulk rares that weren't in commander decks. I was never going to play with, and them just sitting around for many reasons just kind of made me feel bad. And I was looking around for ways to offload them, looking on some of the like the big online vendors like TCG Player and this and that. And as I understood it, you need a lot of cards before it even like pays for the shipping and handling, right?
Yeah.
So I went way outside of my comfort zone and I just fucking put an ad on Craigslist. And I said, I've got 4,000 Magic cards. I want $5 a thousand. Come and get them. Right? And literally within less than an hour, one guy messaged me. And then the following morning, another guy messaged me. The second guy was serious about the offer, came, met me, $20 in my pocket, took all of my cards. Literally no questions asked. He didn't look through them. He didn't know nothing. And then on top of that, he was like, hey, if you have any more, reach out, let me know. And I was like, word. So, Ian and Jason and Brett, if they're ever needing to offload bulk, there was something to go. So that's the seed of it. So I thought that was really cool.
That's very
and then cool. Yeah. And then it's the organization side of it where I pared down so much. I went through all of my commander decks, and if I had a foil copy of a card that was in a deck, I pulled out the normal copy, that's bulk, put the foil one in, the prettier, cooler looking one, and then, so I shifted around all the cards in my binders, I organized, just like really like got rid of stuff, and now my collection is super tight, it's all logged, I know exactly what's there, I got rid of all the shit that I'm not using. I feel 10 pounds lighter, my friend.
You probably are about 10 pounds of cardboard lighter. Like that's
seriously, like
maybe
it's really
more.
A good
4,000 cards probably weighs more than 10 pounds.
Yeah, so that was really cool. I'm super happy for that guy, and I hope that we can have like a bit of a little relationship in that way, because yeah, it was sweet.
Are you curious at all what he's doing with all those cards?
So my guess is two things. He's either a vendor of himself, like he seemed like the kind of dude that'd be willing to like post up at like flea markets and stuff. It seems like he may be that kind of a dude where he'll like pull collections together, make bags of 1,000 cards and sell them for $10, right? And just, compile them from everywhere. Or he also had the impression, and this is just like judging on looks, whatever. I didn't ask. Maybe in the future I will. But just based on what I gleaned from the guy, it's either some kind of vendor, store owner type guy, or he has like 4 kids. because
Oh.
the car he was driving, not saying that it was dirty or anything, but it told me that he may be moving a lot of people around. So that'd probably be a really good way to get all of his kids involved into the game in a super cheap manner, but also just like having a lot of cards to like choose and pick and play from without having to spend like big dollars. I mean, he got 4,000 cards for $20 and plus
Yeah,
some
that's
gas.
true.
So my guess is it's one of those two things.
Interesting. Okay. Hey,
Yeah.
if that second one's the case, that's pretty awesome that he like is hopefully getting like some people really interested in a pretty cool game and everything. So I think that's pretty sick. Um,
Yeah, it was super dope, and it was the kind of interaction that if anybody asks, I'd be like, Craigslist, it's the way to go. I'm the biggest fan because like the overall experience was so smooth, it went so well. Both parties got exactly what they wanted. So yeah, it was just really good stuff. But that's my Rose Thorn seed for the week, my friend. We've got some interesting stuff to get into now for the Mexican Grand Prix coming up. We don't have, a lot of information. Obviously, we have a super close title fight coming, but everybody knows that.
oh,
Now,
absolutely.
what are you most excited for the Mexican Grand Prix coming up here?
I think honestly the biggest thing is the fact that I think Mexico is gonna have a really cool energy about it for the race and everything. I mean, we have all of these like things going on. There's the buildup of the title fight. We're later in the season, like there's not many races left. It's the only race in Mexico, so like, and Mexico seems to be a pretty have a pretty decent F1 fan base size wise. It's Checo's home race. Like, there's just a lot of cool things that are going to be going on this weekend. So I'm just very much looking forward to kind of all the excitement, the buzz around everything, seeing how things shake out and all. I think it should be a pretty cool race weekend and a lot of fun. So
Yeah, I would definitely agree, and it's exciting for. It's exciting you mentioned it being Sergio Perez's home race, where being that he is in the Red Bull, being that his pace has been so strong recently, I'm not sure there's an outside chance that we see Sergio on the podium for his home race. I think that'd be really cool.
that would be awesome. Like, I don't think it's extremely common for. I mean, just with so few drivers, so few races, all for drivers to win or podium at their home race. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I was showing Colleen the first episode of Drive to Survive last night, actually, because I wanted to, like, just give. Periodically, we can watch an episode so she gets a little better understanding of, like, the sport and all. So maybe she'll be a little bit more intrigued by it to have more interest. I mean, I'm not sure if she wants to, but either way, it's nice that she's checking it out. But they were talking in the broadcast, like the fake broadcast messages that they have in it, about Danny Ricciardo at the home race in Australia and how there had never.
Wait, fake radio broadcast messages?
Oh, yeah, the Drive to Survive, a lot of the little, like, things that they have, like, announcers saying during the episode when there's not actually racing going on are just like sound bites that they made up to tie together a narrative and like recorded. They sound as if they're coming from like a commentator or like a radio message kind of thing sometimes, but yeah, they're like a lot of them are made up for like specifically to kind of build the narrative, give some extra
Right.
background that maybe is
In the
better
way that
for
the
the
edit
episode.
went.
Well, or even just like what they're trying to, like the very first episode, they're trying to like teach people a little bit about the background of Formula One and all and things
Right.
like that. So it was.
Whoa,
Yeah,
that
so
makes
they've
sense though.
yeah, so like not everything that they would need bite wise can just be clipped and pulled from broadcasts. So
Right.
they have to throw some stuff in, but they kind of weave it in as though it is like actual commentary from like the pre-race or like the race weekend or things like that. So
Okay. Yeah. So like if Crofty says something that would line up, they could use that. But what you're saying is if there's like on track footage of cars with the like overlaid broadcast as though they've clipped in footage from the race that you would have seen, that broadcast is recorded in post and then overlaid as though like, because this is what we're trying to tell, because in the race they were showing this, but this is what we want to show and talk about.
Right.
And if they didn't have commentators, it would just be like footage of cars on the track, and that's not as interesting as footage of the race.
Yeah, or like even a lot of it's also in the scenes that are clipped around, like not of actual races, where it's like Danny Ricciardo walking through the like paddock and everything, but like like on Saturday before qualifying, and they're like, oh, and Danny Ricciardo like just enveloping him in the race weekend in his home like country. Like we'll see if he's able to pull out a win and blah blah blah, and like they're like this like background, but it just the like audio mix and everything just makes it seem as though it's like actual commentary. Like it sounds pretty accurate to, and like sound wise and just like what they're saying.
Well, they obviously do a fucking good job, because I had no clue. Like that was genuine surprise on my face of like, oh shit, oh okay. I mean, yeah, like I understand, I totally get that they would do that, and yeah, that's crazy, but I did not know that. That's funny.
Well, it's cool, but like I think one of those broadcast messages from that episode is like them talking, and like it's possible that it was a conversation piece during the actual broadcast, but it's like a clipped in like thing, and it's talking about, oh, like no Australian has classified top 3 at their home race ever,
right?
And like things
like they
like
might
that.
not have said that on the day,
yeah,
but it was the McLaren Drive to Survive episode,
right? So,
or the
well, it was like the intro at Red Bull, since it's season 1. Danny Ricks was still with Red Bull, so
all right. So to go back now, you were talking about watching Drive to Survive with Colleen. How do you get somebody into something that they're like, that it's not like in their wheelhouse? Like what does she like that you could say like, oh well, there's this element of F1, like, oh, check this out. Like does she like pants? You could say, well, you know, Lewis Hamilton, he's got pretty cool pants, you know, and then that's like the way in.
Well,
you know, so you don't have to like drown her in it. You just like offer it to her in a drink that she likes the taste of already.
It's more for her, I think, like she likes doing something or doing things like with me and enjoys like learning what I'm like interested in, and I like me the same with her. I like hearing about like what's going on with her work and like what she's doing and her friends and things like that are like, that's like her world a little bit more. So I think it's mostly a desire to kind of like get to know it more, so that like I can talk to her about it and she'll like have some understanding if she like sits down to watch a race or anything like that.
Just increasing exposure, as it were.
Yeah, and she's done the same thing with like sports, like watching Eagles games or going to the Phillies or things like that. She would watch them like before, but really like if she missed it, she didn't really care. Whereas like I watch the Eagles pretty religiously weekly and everything. Like, I want to get to some hockey games this year. I enjoy going out to the Phillies game. It's like a nice night out in the summer kind of thing.
Sure.
And she told me when we first started dating that her like family would probably be like tell me that she hates sports and she doesn't want to watch them. She's like, no, I just didn't want to watch them with them. Like, I enjoy watching them with you because like we'll sit there and we'll like chat during things and all, and we're not just like sitting there intently watching every little bit to know. Like we watch
Throwing
together.
beer bottles at the TV when shit doesn't go your way.
Exactly, but it's like a nice way that she's like, this is something that I do, and like I want to watch the F1 races when they're on. Like 23 weekends a year is a decent chunk of time, but the fact that like I want to watch that, I want to watch the Eagles, things like that. She's like, he's gonna be spending time doing this stuff, so I might as well like learn enough about it to like hang and everything and enjoy it to whatever extent she might too. So
yeah, for sure. And especially when eventually me and you are going to be like paid to be at the races effectively, we're going to be gone. Like we'll be away every weekend. We'll be with the traveling circus, recording live on track. That's the dream. We just have to put it out into the universe, Aaron.
Yep, I've got it on my vision board. It's just off camera.
So. Nice. I have 2 vision boards just to make sure.
Nice. You gotta have a backup.
So, yep. Gotta have a backup. Go ahead.
But yeah, like, so I think it's a little similar to like when you got Sarah into playing a little bit of Magic here and there and everything. It's like same kind of thing. It was something that you're very interested in and like talk about and spend time doing. So I'm sure she was like some part of it probably interested because it's a cool game, but also on like another part interested in just like being able to like talk to you or understand what you're talking about, or like spend time with you doing something like that you enjoy and all. So that's it's cool.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. That was exactly kind of the place. But I guess my I was asking in the sense of I'm not sure in thinking about league and teaching and showing people different sides of us that are like outside their wheelhouse. Maybe there's a way where you can like always do it better, where for Sarah maybe I could have found the angle that she would have enjoyed better. Like maybe like I was coming at it from a purely like gameplay perspective, like, whoa, look at this cool game, look at the way we can like play against each other, look at the fun ways you can like make these cards interact, where maybe the angle would have been, dude, look at the art, I love this artist, I love this style, oh, look at what they do here. And then through the portal of the art, then it's like, oh, well, how do you actually play with these cards? And then you can get into it. So I'm just saying, I think there's always, when bringing someone into the fold, you have to think about what their predispositions are and their palate, and try and like hit that flavor for them in the new world.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not saying you did it poorly with Colleen, just thinking out loud about how one brings another one into the fold.
Oh, absolutely. No, there's definitely, it's like knowledge of the person to just like intrigue them with it in the first place and all. There has to be like some sort of reason that someone wants to get into something. So like in the case of like Sarah or Colleen, like it's very easy for like them to have the reason of like you or me to like want to learn something that we enjoy. But someone who's maybe not in that situation where you're trying to be like, oh, like League of Legends is a super fun game to play. You can have 5 of your friends playing together and everything.
That's
you
a
can
tough sell.
stay up till 4 a.m. on a weeknight and then get 3 hours of sleep because you just needed that one last win. And maybe one of those little things will just catch someone.
It for sure called them, that's for sure.
It did. But yeah, I think there's definitely, I get what you mean completely about there's different angles and everything. I mean, maybe I don't know, maybe it's not about me. Maybe it's the fact that I showed her the Lewis Hamilton song with Christina Aguilera. And
yeah, she's just waiting for the mixtape to drop, dude.
No, she's waiting till we get big so that she can meet Lewis, because she's just gonna be like, great voice, man.
Even all right, big. Okay, so what's the dude's name from the other? It doesn't matter. There's another individual that there's another individual that would have started just like we are, and he has been involved in some of the broadcasts. So my question is, has even somebody like him met Lewis Hamilton in any meaningful capacity?
I feel like probably somewhat, because I think he may have press credentials to be involved with that at all. Plus he's done some announcing and commentary for esports races and things like that.
Right.
So I think I would not be surprised if he has bumped into Lewis, but there's also at the same time, I feel as though there's certain drivers that probably when they're around the paddock and everything, they really just do not interact with anyone other than their handler, their agent, their significant other, family who are there, and their team. And they don't they go to driver interviews because they have to.
Right.
It's a obligation in their contract or whatever. But other than that, they're just headphones in, sunglasses on, just giving off "don't talk to me" kind of vibes.
Oh yeah,
and
super unapproachable.
I can see Kimmy being like that. I can see Lewis being like that. I could see Max being like that. There's a number of drivers that I'm I wouldn't be surprised if Seb Vettel's a little like that, but I think at this point, since he's just been around so long, he probably has plenty of people that he's just saying hey to around the paddock when he sees them at all. But yeah, there's definitely some people that I just imagine being locked in, and not wanting any outside noise.
But you get the premise. There's even a world where so we get to a race in some capacity.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we're even within 100 meters of any of the drivers.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so then the next year we're at a race and we figure out a way to get an interview with the assistant to the tire gun plugger inner guy, and we're fuck yeah. We're still nowhere close to a driver or anybody important, right? So I guess what I mean is even in a world where we do make those steps, it would be a bad bet for her to try and use us to get close to Lewis Hamilton.
It's the long con, man.
It's the long con, and I guess in that I would have to respect it.
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
Down the line, you just never know.
Yeah.
The possibility is open in my mind.
Oh, it's very open in my mind. I don't know. He may be on to fashion by the time we get to a track in like a meaningful capacity like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe if he is like F1 something or other for Mercedes, maybe we could get a what's your favorite fucking fabric interview with the guy. Anyway,
Yeah.
Mexican Grand Prix coming up this weekend. I'm hyped.
Oh, it should be a good one. And yeah, like we said, the race is tight at the end of the season. Only a few races to go, so it really should be a fun, exciting time. So
Before we move on, can I just get into? I just want to talk briefly about what may lead to us seeing a different Mexican Grand Prix than we saw in 2019.
yeah, absolutely.
So, and I'm not going to get like too deep in the weeds, but I want to point out one key difference and one like big similarity. So the big similarity we have was Valtteri was within. I think he needed to keep a gap, keep within a gap of 78 points at the end of the Mexican Grand Prix to stay within the championship. Depending on what happened in the race, Lewis could have sealed it up that day. He did not. Valtteri finished P3 to keep himself in the championship. I say that's a similarity in the sense that, like we had mentioned before, we are coming into like a very, very tight driver and constructor championship where a lot of these positions are up for grabs. So I thought that was an interesting similarity. And then the big difference that I think we're going to see is in maybe the tire strategy. So what we saw in 2019 were the tire strategies and tire issues kind of told the story of the whole race. Like that was the story of the race. Couple drivers on 2 stops, couple drivers having like problems in the pit lane. Specifically, I believe it was Giovinazzi and Leclerc started on pole due to Max's engine issues. So there was a lot going on that put different drivers in contention for P1 at different times in the race. But what I think was going on were temperatures were really high that weekend, leading to high deg, punctures, a lot of crazy things going on. So I use all of that to say I think the difference here is going to be that with, we talked about at the beginning, temperatures being so low and dropping, we're having frost in the morning, we may see a much colder Mexican Grand Prix than we saw in 2019, to the degree that I'm not so sure the most recent data that they have is going to be very useful. So I think some of this race is going to be decided in that FP3 and that qualifying scenarios where they're really going to find out like, oh, we're doing 1 stops, we're going mediums to hards. Like I truly think it's going to be a very different race than we saw in 2019 for some of those reasons.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I just looked up the weather expectations for the weekend, and they're looking at like low 70s temperature wise. So that's definitely going to be cool enough that there shouldn't really be too many issues that are like hot weather related,
Right.
like we kind of ran into a little bit at the US Grand Prix this year. So yeah, I think there's going to be I'm not sure what the expectation is, but I think a lot of teams will probably be trying to get some longer race pace test runs during like FP2 or FP1 to try and get a better idea of like or even sending just one driver to do that and like to get the data on the tires and the wear and everything. So I really wouldn't be shocked to see a decent bit of that earlier on in the weekend to give a better idea. So
But yeah, those were interesting things that came up when looking at the race from from last time and looking ahead this weekend. But yeah, were there any other elements you wanted to hit before we moved on?
No, I think the only thing is it's just interesting looking at what you're saying with the Drivers' Championship with Lewis and Valtteri a couple years ago. Like this year, this is our fifth to last race, and the gap between first and second is only 12 points. Like, pretty much without any catastrophic, like, damage to either driver, the soonest that really the championship would be potentially more than a race out of reach would be like the second to last race. Like,
yeah, it was just crazy.
Yeah, like the fact that it could go down to the wire, down to the last races, I think is wild. So this could have a huge impact on that, especially if Lewis comes out and has a really good weekend. That could really shake things up, or just continue to push this. Who is going to win the Drivers' Championship this year? Keep pushing that out to wait to see. So.
And what's fascinating, I'm sure you've heard this before, and I think a lot about it. So here we are setting up like the culmination of the season, 12-point spread, Max and Lewis. Look at 2019, Valtteri was so close. Here we are setting up all this context. Michael Jordan said about losing, I've never lost any games. I just ran out of time. And you know Lewis and Max would think in the exact same way in the final race if it came down to it. Sure, the disappointment, oh, you wanted to win. There's a lot of that. But you know when they were asked the question, it's, yeah, we're just looking ahead to next year, see what we can do to improve. Oh, the rules changes are going to bring... Like, you know that's where their head would be at anyway. And it has that vibe of, we want Max to overcome the Goliath that is Lewis and Mercedes, right? But even if he doesn't, I am confident that Max is the type of driver, like Michael Jordan was the type of basketball player, to say, I didn't lose that championship, I just ran out of races, right? And then it's on to the next year, focus on the next thing. Oh, the 2022 car is going to be better. So even no matter, I'm saying this to say, no matter what happens at the end of this season, it has been the type of performance from both of them that I think sets us up for just even better racing in the future. And maybe not just from them. I think it's the kind of racing that seems to be leveling up the whole field around them.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Because like there's a bar and those two guys are at it, and so now people have to start catching up.
Right.
It's fun to watch. It's exciting to watch, and I agree. I think that the attitudes that we'll see from whichever guy ends up coming out in P2, I think that will be really interesting to kind of see if you're right on the money with interviews and things like that. I would not be surprised at all to see both of them act that way. Or either of them act that way, I guess. So
yeah, and like, you know, we clown Lewis and we give him such a hard time as though he was like our best friend or something. But at the end of the day, the bottom line, I think he is a sportsmanlike competitor, and I'm pretty sure that he would have kind words and nothing, you know, ill to say, but just on to the next one. Hey man, we didn't get him this time. We'll get him, you know. We have another chance.
Oh, absolutely. And like on that same note of like, we talk a lot of trash on Lewis. He's a phenomenal driver. It's just
and just a good person, like, for the world to be alive. Like to
be
alive
really
right
is
now.
like a good dude, yeah. And like it's
Positive
just
force.
so easy to kind of rag on the people who are like winning again and again and again. Like it's like people who hated the Patriots with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Like, I'm not a fan of Tom Brady. I don't like the guy, but like, you have to respect it. And he's definitely a good person. Like, he's brought other players back into the NFL who had some like serious issues on teams that they were with before, and like just all sorts of things like that. Like you see Tom Brady just like rounding out people to be just like more decent people when he's around them. And like Lewis is definitely one of those guys. He's just so damn good that you have to kind of be a little annoyed and like rag on him a little bit, because you're like, he wins everything. I can't just keep hyping him up too. Like,
right.
Can't just like hop on the Lewis like train and just go, and like Lewis is like, you gotta knock him down to more my level.
100%. But yeah, so, I agree. Just looking forward to this race, and like we said, the culmination of the season. But yeah, those are my thoughts. And yeah, Michael Jordan, you don't lose games, you just run out of time.
It's a good way to segue on running out of time from that segment into the big point of this episode, the League of Legends World Championship semifinals. But
10-game weekend.
And before we get to that, I would be remiss to not talk about the North American LCS. But I just wanted to briefly like bring up and get your thoughts on the whole Bjergsen leaving TSM coaching staff and all to look to compete and sign to a team this coming season for the LCS. Or I believe LEC he's open to as well. So he's looking at rejoining as a player again. So definitely an interesting thing. I'm not sure how much you had seen about it or if you had looked much at it. But I think it's just interesting that he sat out for a year and he was like, you know what? Like it wasn't like a double lift, like I need to take a break or anything like that. He was like full on retired in a coaching position and all. And now he's like, nah, I got that itch.
I don't know what it would be, but maybe it was something about like not being able to coach the team well enough to get a win. Maybe he feels like he's got to be, in the seat. There is always a concern for the comeback. Obviously they're never going to be what they were. So I think the expectations around him should obviously be reserved, I think. I'd be impressed if he comes back strong. And I have to say, I think Bjergsen is probably one of my favorite players historically.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I would love to watch him play again, hopefully in good form. I don't even care if he's in, like playoff Bjergsen form, but just be good. Please don't be shit. Don't come back and just, like, be a po-belter. Because, like, you should have just learned how to make street tacos, right? Like, because that's the other side of the coin, and this is where I'm very critical. Dude, get out the game, bro. Mm-hmm. Just go do fucking something else. There's a million things in the world.
And there's millions of dollars in his bank account.
Right. So, there is something about the, like, you just... Like, you're watching Worlds, you watch North America fail, you didn't make it. The context is such that one might be led to believe that these are decisions not made with the clearest intentions, but that's not for me to decide.
Yeah.
That's not for me to decide. Like, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I just think there's there's something interesting about, like you had said, the like full retire, go to coaching staff, and then it's like, oh,
Well,
now I want
yeah,
to play
like
again.
I think from that point, like just being like, okay, like maybe coaching didn't work out. Hey, I'm a part owner of TSM. Like, let me just sit back, let them do that, and like you said,
Just
figure
take
out.
on that.
Well, figure
Start a
out something
club
that
team with you,
yeah,
Pobelter, Skara. Just go play. Start ranked ARAMs, dude. Like, I don't know. I
yeah.
don't know. Like, is that like? All right. I'll say this though. I'll say this as devil's advocate to my own point. I probably, if you go back and listen to the episode, I probably said the same dumb shit about Fernando Alonso, and now here I am, practically just on my knees in front of the guy, like, oh, rookie of the year, dude, he's so good. So, like, that easily could be me, too. So, what the fuck do I know, man? But then, Michael Jordan, the other guy that I was just quoting, he came back and it was like, oh, you should have stayed home, sir.
Yeah, there are a number of times that athletes have come back from retirement, and like I think I may have said it when he first announced his retirement, but I'm fairly certain I said something to the effect of I hope he stays retired because I think too many people. I think I referenced like Dominic Hasek and Brett Favre. If I'm remembering this in the right context, that was about Bjergsen. But that I felt as though he shouldn't come back and potentially tarnish his legacy.
Yeah,
Of
that's
being,
that's the concern.
not as good or not just not like up to his previous standard. So I thought that was interesting. Also, Jack from Cloud9, the owner, or I guess co-owner manager, tweeted out like that I thought was interesting. He said, after last year, I've learned to be careful about sharing roster information early, but I'd like to clarify one false rumor. I'm certain the roster will not include any of the following people: Bjergsen, Mickey X from G2, and Hans Sama. He said they're all incredible players, but won't be joining C9. And so I guess with all of the Perks stuff last year and just like all the rumor mill swirling around and all, I thought that was interesting that he was just like, oh, I learned that like roster rumors can really like put some egg on your face kind of thing. Like, I'm just going to avoid getting involved in these roster rumors at all and just focus on everything that we like plan to do kind of thing.
Is there something in I don't This is what's weird about CEOs and people like that on Twitter, like what the decisions, you should make decisions for the team that you believe are going to like gonna be the best roster moves. There's something about like, oh, it's not gonna be these people, and so everybody then is gonna pile on and be like, oh, I hope it's this person, get this person, blah 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 blah, and it's like, bro, like, just pick the best player, not who all these fucking 10-year-olds think should be, you know. Dude, Power of Evil would look sick in Cloud9 colors, dude. Like, that's not analysis, man.
Yeah.
But that's what these CEOs would get on Twitter.
Right.
So I'm partial to just like,
yeah,
zip it up.
I do understand that side of it, but I think that the rumors swirl and people get like start looking too deep into things. These 10-year-olds are like, oh my god, Han Sama followed Vulcan on Twitter, and now like they have to play together. The Han Sama's coming to NA and shit like that. And so when things like that happen, it can get your actual real fan base that really just is looking to root for your team and hope that they do the best, like riled up and upset about, oh, you didn't get this player, you didn't get that player. And so instead, just in the like coming out and being like, hey, maybe it's because they look at the team and they're like, Sven, Vulcan, and Perks are on 2-year contracts or have another year in their contract, and we're very happy with how their performance was and everything. So those positions aren't changing. So we won't be getting Mickey X, Hans Sama, or Bjergsen because those 3 roles are already filled like on the team. So I think it's just interesting to see him kind of coming out just to try and squash stuff before anything gets like out of hand. But yeah, I found that pretty interesting and kind of odd because I feel like I haven't really seen that before.
I mean, dude has an interesting history of tweets and Reddit posts, but like that's just what you get from these dudes like spending time in those places. It's like,
yeah,
what? I don't know, man.
So, but yeah, some roster moves I'm sure will be happening shortly after Worlds and all, but we do
but not Hans Sama to Cloud9, we know that.
And we do have some actual World Championship stuff to talk about, which typically does not include North America, so we can move right along to.
Not in the semifinals.
Definitely not in the semifinals, but the first match, Damwon versus T1. I guess what stood out to you, or hit me with some of your points from that. Like what, it was a crazy exciting series. I enjoyed watching through as much as I was able to, and then going back and rewatching some stuff. So.
Well, we had predicted a 3-1 to Damwon, and it went to all 5 games. So there's something to be said about like T1's resilience. I think they played obviously one game better in some way than we thought they would. So I enjoyed that aspect of it, that T1 was so competitive. What was fascinating about the games is I heard an analyst talk, an analyst whom I respect very much, talk about how Faker may be the worst mid laner in the semifinals. Now, that's a fair point to make. There's 4 of them. At this point, we're talking about the 4 best in the world. Obviously, somebody has to be at the bottom of that if you're going to rank them. And so let's operate with that notion that Faker was the worst one in the semis, the worst mid laner. In games 4 and 5, the ones that Damwon came back in to win the series, it was the focus of Canyon and Showmaker in the mid lane, focusing down Faker and keeping him off gold, keeping him under his turret, and that really opened up the map. So I would just like to say on that point that even not being the best in his role, it's clear that he is still a significant linchpin where if he is not able to deal that consistent damage out in these fights, T1 really suffers, even in a game when Keria, Guma, Canna, and their mid laner are all playing exceptionally well, but it's when Faker got held down that T1 really struggled, which is just like, I don't know if that's a critique against the T1 playstyle, if that's an accolade for Damwon where it's like they knew what they had to do to come back in the series, and maybe it's all just this big gumbo of that's Korean League of Legends right there. But it was a super exciting series to watch, and it was fun seeing the teams go back and forth. It truly was a chess match in that way, where T1 had the Lissandra into the LeBlanc pick that went really well. Canna had some insane team fights where the Kennen was huge. So I think both teams played the series really well. T1 had an advantage in game 5. Faker was just a bit behind. So like it was not over by any stretch of the imagination at any point in the series. And from a Faker fan, a T1 fan, just a good League of Legends fan, that was a phenomenal series. It was so much fun.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I completely agree, and I think that's gonna. It'll be interesting to see at whatever point that Faker does decide to retire, to kind of see what T1 does in that situation. I mean, obviously we've got some really young, talented players with Owner and Guma. Like they're rookies. They're phenomenal, like just talents and everything. So if they can become like kind of some steadfast long-term players for T1, then with or without Faker, I think they still could be a really good team.
Well, yeah, run that back. You have rookies making it to the semis of Worlds alongside these other
games.
Right. Like they are. I can imagine that skill ceiling is a little bit higher. I think we're gonna see good things from those players moving forward.
Yeah, and I mean coming off of a world championship for Damwon, where I mean they have the same roster pretty much that they had last year. Like I think maybe a couple of people shifted around.
No, it's the same roster.
Well, it's the same roster. I think it's more like the what's it called? Top lane switched. Khan and Nuguri, right?
Oh yeah, Nuguri went to Gen G. Who does he play for now?
He was playing for Hanwha Life, I believe.
Nope. Morgan was Hanwha's top laner.
FPX.
FPX, thank you. Yes, he is Chinese.
Yes. So
on a Chinese team.
Right. So like Damwon basically being like, hey, let's run it back, but picking up, in my opinion, a better top laner. Like that matchup for T1 to be that close, that speaks like very highly to their coaching, their team, like their player cohesion, all of those things. But I do also have to give huge credit to Damwon, because they were down 2-1 in this series. They were on like back to the wall. What happens when you put pressure on these guys? Are they going to crack, or are they going to come out? And they come out and stomp T1 in game 4. Like 18 kills to 1. Showmaker doing stupid things on the LeBlanc. 11-0-3. Completely shutting Faker down. Just completely shutting all of T1 down in that game. And it was just incredible to see them bounce back like that. And I feel like that kind of put T1 on the back foot for game 5. Like if it was a tight game 4 and Damwon just managed to sneak it out, I think there might be a little bit of a difference in game 5 in terms of what T1 decides to play, like what their mental is. Not that, I mean, they still competed. It was a super close game 5, so I don't think they were like broken and just like after game 4 we're like, oh, we lost. But like you see Faker going back to the Azir, which I don't think, like, he's played pretty well on, but I don't think it's been his best champion this World Championships. You see like just a bit more comfort and like almost I like trying too hard in the pick and ban. Like the Zillion did work in game 3, but I don't know if that was the best option when you're facing such a poke heavy and like bursty team, like I think going with someone who could be more of a front line for T1 might have been a better option. Who knows? But I think if that game 4 is closer, that they probably don't draft exactly the way that they did, looking for kind of a little bit of comfort. I think that they kind of fell back to that a little bit with the picks for Game 5.
Well, okay. Looking back over the pick and bans, T1 would have had no reason to believe that Showmaker was picking Zoe. The last player before him to play it was picked red side by Gen G. So, and then the next time it was picked wasn't even by Damwon. The last time they played it looks like it was forever ago. So, if T1 was doing the research, planning for a best of 5, that Zoe pick would have come out of nowhere. It wasn't a focus of the series. Nobody touched it. Nobody played it. It was barely an afterthought in some of these other series too. So I think that was a big, not point of failure, because how could they have seen it coming?
But like just a big chess move by Damwon to pull that
master stroke from Damwon, and then so not only do they get that like bam surprise, because that is last pick on red side. Damwon saw the whole comp, and Showmaker said, "Give me the Zoe." And he fucking delivered. He was nailing bubbles. Those paddle stars were insane. He was doing so much damage. So from a bring it out of the games and like up to a series. Think about the tournament as a whole. Teams doing research, looking back. Unless they would have seen him practicing it in solo queue, from a competitive standpoint, there's nothing that would have told T1 that he was picking that champion in Game 5.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that point. And looking at the pick and ban
that's what
again,
lost them the game.
No, but looking at that again, like I still am not thrilled with the Zillion pick and everything. Like I know it can be impactful in later game team fights with the ultimate and everything, but like,
oh yeah, I
mean, just looking at Kyria's top played champions compared to other supports who are at the World Championship. I mean, he only had his top 3 played champions were enchanters. It's what we have. Where I lost him. We have Lulu. Well, I guess Thresh, but Thresh is getting banned out like in every game. So Lulu, Thresh, and Zillion. Like pretty much every other support, like their top person is like Leona, Rel, Rakan. Like there's a little bit of Nami thrown in, but those players who have like an enchanter have like the Leona and Thresh is like up there on their plate. Mako is the only other person really that it's like all enchanters pretty much as their top played, with Nami, Yumi, and Lulu. So like Lulu and the Zillion I just don't think are phenomenal options. But I think that's like what he's comfortable or maybe better at playing.
Right. So the comfort picks actually kind of hurt them here, where they weren't playing maybe the most optimal thing.
Yeah, and I think the Azir is another one that I'm just like, Faker's good on it, and he can he can make big plays, but I don't like relying on like a good Shurima shuffle or something like that to win a game necessarily. I think there are better champions that he's good on that can have like a big impact like that without the risk of being as squishy and like having to utilize abilities to really move around quickly and all to get your engage off and everything. Like, I don't think it's a terrible team comp. I think they just fell back onto some comfort, and I think that's probably due to just getting like stomped out in game 4. Like, let's just wipe that and like go to something that we feel good.
Yeah, no, I totally would agree with that. But we probably missed the actual angle for Bjergsen. We totally whiffed right over it. He saw T1 playing Zillion and he's like, "I'm back, baby. My champion's playable."
Yeah, you never know. Maybe he'll get picked up as the new support for T1 next year.
That would be sick.
Bjergsen and Faker just out there balling out in Korea. Zillion support every single game.
That sounds like a powerhouse lineup, actually. You would just need 2v5 Faker and Bjergsen. They could play the whole game. But
exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I was very impressed with Damwon and T1, but especially Damwon just coming back to pull that out, make it to back-to-back finals in the World Championships. Is that something that's happened before?
I do not believe it has been defended.
I feel like every...
T1 did it back to back.
T1 did. So, I mean, this is also, like we said, this could potentially be, like, to some extent, the start of a new era or another team. I think for so long, like, we've watched and looked at it and just said, damn, like, how is it... or like it doesn't seem possible for anyone to catch up to T1's three world championships that they already have. Like,
well, that was what we thought last week as well. But and this is what I didn't fucking realize, dude. Gen G was bought by Samsung. They're effectively like the same organization. So if Gen G won this year, Samsung, the whoever the people at the top are, they would have had 3. They would have tied them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that either.
Neither did I. I totally missed that in like, you think of like roster changes and whatever, but you also have to think of like, like team orgs changing and stuff. Oh, but it's effectively just they just got bought out or like, whatever.
Yeah, that makes more sense. I guess the history of like the team is still the same, but I almost look at that as like being the same like spot. Like I don't think of NA, like I think of it as being more of a spot in the league as opposed to like the same organization, I guess. Like I don't see
I would tend to agree with you.
Like I don't think of I don't know, FlyQuest, or no, that's a bad example. Whoever bought LMQ's spot when Riot was like, yeah, you can't have a full 5-man team of like another.
It's not that they bought the spot; they bought like Samsung is now Gen G. It's not that Samsung was out and Gen G came into their spot. They are.
Gotcha.
Samsung got absorbed into Gen G. Now, I might agree with you that, well, Gen G's like, it's even though Samsung got absorbed into it, I don't know if you absorbed those championships too. That was like different players, different time.
Right.
But I just say that to say, I imagine if it went that way, I think the narrative would have been, oh, the quote-unquote Samsung org matches T1. I have a feeling that's how they would do it on the broadcast. We don't know because that's not how it's going to go. but that was just a point that I missed last time where they were absorbed. There are like the same, it's like the same kind of thing.
Yeah, and I guess that makes sense too, just in terms of like there are so many teams that have gone through iterations of name changes and things like that as money has changed in esports and all. I mean, like even looking at like there are very few teams that have stayed like consistently the same like throughout. Like Fnatic is one that like, but even TSM has gone through all these iterations of TSM Snapdragon and TSM this and TSM FTX and like all that stuff where like Samsung was Samsung White, and they also had Samsung Blue, and then they became Samsung Galaxy, and now they're like Gen G. Or same thing with like Royal Club to Starhorn Royal Club to RNG. Like those are all like this has happened so much, I think, due to how young and like the influx of money into the sport and everything that has changed a lot of that naming stuff. So yeah, I can imagine that they would have gone the same way with that for Gen G if they would have made it to the finals potentially, which, spoiler alert, the next series we're talking about will get there. So
yeah. Just like keep it in mind and for the future, just to keep eyes. So like when, because part of this was to learn about these international teams, and it's like, well, that's now we know that's something to keep our eye out for. Where are these orgs just changing names, changing this and that, just to keep our eyes open. But yeah, definitely. We can use that as a great segue onto Gen G versus EDG. Yeah. We had predicted a 3-1 for EDG, I believe, so. And it went to all 5 games. Now I'll ask you the question you asked me, sir. What were your impressions of the series?
Personally, I think that EDG played a little bit better than the 5-game series ended up showing. I think that the games that they lost, they were like pretty tight in for an extended period of time, or I guess mainly just game 3. They were extremely close in that game. It was kind of balanced there. Multiple times that it could have swung either way. Even at the end of the game, super close in gold, pretty close in kills. And I think they had some good opportunities with the Dragon Soul and everything in that game to potentially pull that out and go up 2-1 right there. But Gen G did play pretty well, play a little bit better, I think, than I had expected. Rascal looked really, really good on the Renekton when he was playing it. I was pretty impressed by him in that game 3, and then like game 5 he really that was just kind of a similar to like game 4 in the T1 Damwon. It was just pretty dominated from start to finish, just from EDG's side for that. So I was really also impressed by Viper throughout the series. He was kind of my standout. The man is just he's so good.
Big Uzi vibes. Yeah. Like big Forgiven vibes. Like his was
positioning, the dashing in, like just with the like Lulu and everything, being able to just like go in there, like shields, speed boost on the Jinx and everything. Even though they lost that game, like he was positioning so well, putting himself in the spots to do a ton of damage, not afraid to dash in or play aggressively on the Lucian in the games that he was on. That like I was just very, very impressed.
Yeah, similar. And like what was crazy, it takes 2 to tango, where Mako was right there with him all the time, giving him the buff ups and playing like so close together that they really were like a dominant force in that series, and I think a big reason why EDG won. And it was like from a fan of that role specifically, that was a master class of like how to play Lucian Nami. Like that was insanely strong performance. And then you take it outside of that, like there was BDD on his Zoe. You had Rise being like super pivotal on both sides. I think there was a lot of fun stuff in this series as well.
Yeah, and I think the mid lane matchup was like really really fun to watch. Feel like BDD and Scout are like up there. I can definitely see, like you said, where Faker could be the fourth best mid laner here, because they both looked really really good on a number of different champions. And I think something that was cool and will be interesting to see in the finals is just these teams they're playing different styles. They're playing different champions than like Damwon or T1 were playing. Like they are like Gen G was breaking out the Seraphine, breaking out the Gwen. EDG played the Gwen a little bit. That we saw that I think maybe once in the T1 Damwon series. No, we didn't see that at all in that series. So like the Gwen coming out, Seraphine, seeing the Lucian Nami paired up and making it through like the pick ban multiple times.
Yeah, like why wasn't at least one half banned? Because then they wouldn't pick the other half. Like why wouldn't you just ban it?
Yeah, like they got to play it 3 different times. And then even on Viper on the Jhin in the last game, like his positioning, he was in the right spots. He was getting good ultimates off. He was like being able to set himself up in a spot where he's like, okay, like the rest of the team can be over there going in, and my Leona can be on top of their team, but I'm in a position where I can get all 4 bullets of my ult off. He wasn't ever really in danger of like someone flanking him, blowing him up on the back line, and them losing the team fight. Like he was putting himself in good spots to put out damage and just like be the carry that they need him to be for that team. So I was just like, Viper was a huge standout. Scout looked really good too, though. Like him versus Showmaker is going to be a like fun mid lane matchup to watch as well. I think that they both are very very good, and I expect that to be like a lot of back and forth. Maybe seeing the Zoe pick and the Rise picks being taken away from each other and whatnot. So it'll be a good matchup there as well.
Yeah, and it was interesting to see like a very different flavor where we have the red side Azir Lulu as well. And that was a game that Genji did lose. So like we have another example of it that like that may not be the strongest comp right now. Maybe Lulu may not be the strongest enchanter. So yeah, just a lot of details to think about going into the Damwon EDG matchup.
Well, that's also another like just team comp that doesn't have like a tank really for it. I mean, you're sitting there with Graves, Viego, Azir, Misfortune, and Lulu. Like you're not gonna have someone who can tank out some of the crazy like Zoe damage. Like the Zoe, it just can blow people up so easily and all. So it's one of those things that I'm just not super like, I'm just not a big fan of that comp and everything. But yeah, like Genji fought out and played a really really tough series. But I think going forward, I hope EDG can pick up a game in the finals. I've seen a lot of commentators and analysts and people like that, just as soon as the EDG Genji series ended, being like, And congrats to Damwon on the 3-0 in finals and everything. I don't know if I am likely to go that far with it, but I think my biggest concern for EDG going into the finals is the jungle matchup and kind of that potential gap between the teams. I mean, GG played Jarvan all 5 games of the series. Like, the Gen G was not concerned about taking the Jarvan away. He played it all 5 games. It's like it can do well, but it also like it's really team reliant. And then you're up against Canyon, who was the MVP of last year's World Championship Finals. Canyon looked phenomenal, putting pressure on during the T1 series, beating owner around the map in a lot of instances, just like really being impactful and impacting the game on a number of different champions. I mean, he was on the Lee Sin, the Xin Zhao, the Jarvan, like Kiana, and then the Talon. Like, he played a different jungler every single one of those 5 games compared to GG on the Jarvan, all 5. So...
Well, it was EDG played Jarvan in the last game. It looks like he was on, JJ was on Xin Zhao.
Oh, my mistake. No, Clid was on Xin Zhao. Am I losing my mind?
Blue side in the last game was Xin Zhao. Red side was Jarvan. EDG was red side. They picked Jarvan with Jin. What am I looking at?
Xin. Wait, I thought you said that GG played Xin Zhao. That was blue side pick.
You're right. And then blue. Okay, you were right. I got the teams flipped.
Okay, I was like, am I looking at?
These columns fuck with my eyes so much.
I'm gonna send you a quick. This is what I'm looking at. That's helped me to like keep it a little more straight, because that, like, you can open it up to each of the games individually.
Okay.
So, like, I'm at the bottom looking at all the games and, like, the match.
Okay, very cool. Gotcha. So you're seeing a clearer picture than I am. Okay, but yeah, no, you were definitely right. He did play all 5 games. That was a dumb sidebar. Sorry.
Yeah, all good. It happens. But yeah, like, that's pretty, like, that's just a huge difference. I think GG played well on the Jarvan and all, but like,
he fucking better.
I mean, but at the same time, going into that final series against Damwon, like, if they ban out the Jarvan, does he look comfortable on anything else? Like, there were, like, it is very much a comfort pick for him. And like, if you take that one thing away, like, I don't know. Really...
Yeah, there was a lot of Lee Sin too. They could easily just ban that. There's a lot of pick ban wise, that is a big detriment.
Yeah, and so I think that's going to be interesting, because like, it is so different. They both played very, very well in their series, like in each of their series, but the way that they went about it and playing different styles was like just very, very different coming from them there. So,
well, looking at past grand finals, it is a lot of 3-0s, 3-1s. So just based on that, yeah, 3-0, 3-1 is a fine prediction to make. I think overall, the meme in place of analysis like isn't that impressive to me. Like
I
it's
was disappointed to see all of that too. Like whether you're thinking it or that's really what you believe or not, I was a bit disappointed.
Yeah, like is there like no world you can imagine, no advantage that EDG has that they can bring even to bring them to 4 games or 5 games. But yeah, I hope for a Silver Scrapes in the finals on Saturday morning cuz both teams look really strong in their victories. The losers look strong in their losses, which tells me hopefully we have a bit of an even matchup here because both of these semis like really delivered. I think they were really fun for like big different reasons.
Absolutely. And EDG like finally making it to a world finals and everything. They have a number of players who like just haven't even gotten to play at Worlds before. Like they are coming out playing their best, and they've made it to a final to the finals for a reason. Sorry, I can't
Yeah.
slipped up there, but yeah, just in general, like they made it this far. Like they've got at least some shot to potentially pull it out, and that would be, I think, really huge for the LPL to come into the quarterfinals. Maybe a little bit unsure of how any of their teams might move forward and all.
Mm-hmm.
Only having RNG and EDG, and they have to match up against each other in the quarterfinals. Like
Right.
that's such a frustrating thing probably for the LPL, and for one of their teams to make it all the way to the finals and everything and have a shot is
Mm-hmm.
super exciting to kind of just see how things shake out. I do think Damwon will win and defend their title, but I think that EDG could definitely pick up a game or two during the series.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah. I guess any more notes or points you wanted to hit before we saunter on forward to some Magic the Gathering talk?
No, I don't think so. I think we kind of hit all the really all the big storylines, all the big points. Just super happy with how they played out. Lot of meat there, and I think some big storylines could come out of the end of it. So just really looking forward to Saturday. But yeah, we can talk about some Magic games here. We were playing some on Monday, and we had some super interesting things happen, Aaron. So if you'll indulge me here.
Oh, absolutely. I'm all for it.
So, first of all, and this is just sidebar, maybe like half of a seed, because of the selling off those cards, obviously came into a little bit of money. So I put an order in for cards. I linked you an image of one of the cards up above my show notes. It's
Okay.
Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, and the version that you're seeing is the secret layer printing of it. So,
That's a sick looking card.
dude, and it I think will be the best card in my Yarick deck, which is um lost my train of thought. Yarick is one of the decks that I have in my 9, and it has historically struggled with like good draw effects that are like useful and within what he wants to be doing, like re or creating. What am I saying, dude? Doubling enter the battlefield effects. So Uro enters the battlefield, draw a card, put a land down, gain 3 life. You double that up, like that's insane value.
Gotcha. So, do
So
you
go
have
ahead.
a easy way to make that sort of like loop and everything in that deck to be able to continue to double up on that, or
Yes.
multiple ways?
Yes. So the list is like focus on like putting things into my graveyard as a way of basically unlocking a second hand. So that escape cost to exile the other 5 cards, I'll be able to use that over and over and over again. If he dies, I have ways to sack my creatures, get him into the graveyard, rebuy him. So I think he'll be able to be just a big value focus for the deck. So I was really excited to get that.
Nice. And did that already come in, or are you looking, or you've ordered it and you're waiting on it?
Just ordered it and I'm waiting on it. It's just like an exciting note. And then I got some foil pieces for Grumgully, which will turn it to just having like one iteration of each of the combo pieces. I'll have like 3 or 4 copies of the combo, so I can hopefully just kill the table easily.
Grumgully the Generous.
Yeah, so each other non-human creature enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter. So if you have a persist creature, which says if this creature dies and it did not have a -1/-1 counter on it, return it to the battlefield with a -1/-1 counter on it. That +1/+1 counter that he puts on them negates it. So they have effectively no counter. So then you sack it again. It comes back with a -1/-1 counter. Grumgully says no, put a +1/+1 counter. So if you have a sack outlet that like can kill the table, it just it kills everybody.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So I got a couple foil pieces for that. I got an Altar of Dementia for the deck, which is super fucking sick. I love that card. It's my first copy of it. And it's down
foil or
non-foil. It's like a $10 card or so. So the foil version would be
like
a
95.
Lot. Yeah, well, I don't know if it'd be that high, but more than I'd be willing to pay. So yeah, just really excited for those couple things. But let's focus on the Commander games, because the deck that we're playing, Aloro Ageless Ascetic, I think is the name, was like one of my first Commander decks. It was basically an amalgamation of the blue-black guild kit and the white-black guild kit from a couple sets ago. It was just like, oh, look at all these cool cards. Just put them together. It's in the colors. And, like, they were sort of thematic, but, like, not really tied together. It was just, like, a bunch of rares that were just in those colors. And I've honed it. I've changed things, taken things out. But with the eyes of, oh, I'm getting rid of all of this bulk, I didn't feel bad taking cards out. Because previously it's, if I take a card out, I want to find a place to put it, right? But now, if I'm offloading it, it doesn't matter. It's just another card in the box that he gets to have, right? Yeah. So I was more comfortable making these swaps and looking and saying, oh, that's literally a 25-cent card. Like, okay, I don't need that in the deck, nor do I need that for value. I don't want to play with it. Get it out of here.
Just a straight upgrade, like.
Yeah, and I could be like clinical with it. I could be like, nah, I don't need that shit. Nah, I don't need that shit. So I really was able to cut it down and hone it. And the showing that it presented on Monday was better than the deck has ever played before. I felt way more in control. I had options. I controlled the game. So it was like, it's been like my whole Commander life of like working. Lost Aaron. Aaron's back.
Sorry, that was very weird. I
think okay.
I just clicked something off. So
damn, he just hung up on me, dude. We're still recording. We're good.
Mine, I probably lost a hot second of video, but it's all good.
Gotcha. Yeah, so the games went super well. Like I talked about before, we were focusing just on the opening hands. I went to my second 7 in both of the games, so I was like critical. I was like, what does this hand do? Da 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 da. So I was a little more intentional in that aspect of the game as well. So all good things in that route. And I just want to talk about this just of a play. All right, Fallen Shinobi.
Okay.
3, a blue and a black for a zombie ninja that has ninjutsu. Ninjutsu is an ability, if you have an unblocked attacker, you can pay that cost and like, oh, there's a ninja there now, right? So He says, Fallen Shinobi says, he's a 5/4 body. Whenever Fallen Shinobi deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top 2 cards of their library. Until end of turn, you may play those cards without paying their mana cost. So you've paid effectively 4 mana for 2 cards off the top of your off the top of your opponent's deck. You're like drawing 2 cards, 4 mana that you can just cast right away. I got a nice setup on board where I was able to swing at Ian like while he was pretty fucking set up. Like he had a really nice board state. I swung in with a flyer, got ninjutsu, Fallen Shinobi, and I'll explain this a little bit later, but Fallen Shinobi has a particularly favorite place in my heart. So we ninjutsu in, we hit him for combat damage, and we exile off the top of his library Contagion Engine and Casualties of War. Contagion Engine effectively wiped his board of creatures and gave me a way to proliferate counters on things. His deck was trying to like do that same thing, but I was able to turn it against him. So big hit there. And then Casualties of War, which is like a bop board wipe. So you can hit enchantment, artifact, creature, land, and a planeswalker. So I just fucking target missile strike like 3 of his things, wiped his creatures out with his own cards, and then a turn later was able to seal the deal and take him out of the game. Dude, that card is such a fucking powerhouse. Fallen Shinobi, when it hits, it is insane. Like, there's easily a world where, you know, there's just 2 lands on top or like a fucking mana ramp or whatever. But those were the exact right cards for the scenario. Like, Ian was literally in a position to win that game, and with effectively 3 cards, I flipped the whole thing on its head. I was like, this guy is insane.
Yeah. Well, even in that like position, even though he's not always going to like win you a game or like win you a fight with someone else on the board that quickly, like that's such a like good card that whatever you pull has potential of at least like pushing the game out further to like a later turn like finish, or to like maybe just do just enough to help you creep back in. Like there's a lot of potential that that helps you like get back in the game, whereas in this situation it was a bit more extreme and kind of put you like in a position to just take him out within 2 turns.
It was a haymaker.
Like, that is a huge fast like demise for someone who was in a good spot. Like it is not typically easy without your own setup combo, I feel like, to be able to just wipe someone who has like put themselves in a pretty good spot and everything. At the very least they can defend themselves for a little while and kind of like hang in there, but that is
dude, he had no quarter for that, man. It was pretty tough. So that card fucking overperformed in that game.
That's awesome.
And it's one of the YouTubers that I watch, his name's Caleb Gannon. He does like Vintage Cube, and Fallen Shinobi is one of the cards that's in Vintage Cube. So that's like 0 mana artifacts, like reanimation of like the biggest demons and angels and shit. Like it's a really powerful format, and Fallen Shinobi in his mind is one of the best cards in that draft environment. So that like has to say something.
Oh, absolutely.
So like seeing it in this game, I was like, dude, this thing is just a house. So that was really like the main thing I wanted to talk about for Magic, was just how impressed I was with that deck. In it being, it felt like a culmination of a lot of games played and like a lot of tinkering done, where a lot of the pieces really showed up, and I felt like, damn, this deck is like humming. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And like getting that and being able to play that deck for a couple of games. I know you said you got to play a 3rd game on Monday as well. and everything. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that at all, or any other. Have you gotten into any other games over the weekend or anything?
So Cass was just got beat down. I think I would have had to analyze my hand a little bit better at the time.
Gotcha.
It was a
Start or just like where at that point?
No, we were at like turn 8, but Ian had to leave for work, so all of the plays had to be like, you either have them right now or kind of pass. And if I took a little bit more time on my turn, I'm not blaming Ian. If I took a little bit more time on my turn, I think I would have seen a line to at least stop him on his turn. But at quick glance, I saw that I had the win next turn, but I didn't think of a way to I didn't think of what he's doing and should I try and keep going to put myself in a position to stop him. I limited myself of options because I guess we were trying to help him get out the door. He played really well, and his setup, I think, was going to get him there anyway. There's no guarantee that I could have even found a way to stop him.
But you kind of Hail Married it to try and left yourself open for...
Yeah. Which, so that was a bit tough.
That changes things. Like you said, he could have won, it might not have worked out for you anyway. But, yeah, I get what you mean, that you could have... Yeah. If you had taken more time with it on your own, you could have maybe found a different way that things could be played and whatnot. So,
But him getting to work on time is a much better thing.
Yeah, definitely.
But I will say we've been getting into the Divinity campaign like crazy. We've been getting a lot of sessions in, and that's going really well, really fun. I have Maybe this will be my thorn for next time. I have a pretty funny story that I can tell you. Nice. But let's end this episode. Aaron, give me your flavor of the week. I want to hear about it here.
Absolutely. So for my flavor of the week for the food, it's actually something really simple. And the other day, I was just really tired. I had a long day, kind of rough day, and so I went over to Colleen's, and she had made spaghetti and meatballs, and with just some garlic bread, nice little layered cheese on top of the garlic bread and all. And that was really, really good. That was on Sunday, Halloween night. So the other part of that night, we went over to her brother's place and kind of hung out with some of her family while her nieces were trick-or-treating. And her... one of her family members brought these little pumpkin cupcake things, and they were just so good. They were mini ones too, so I didn't feel that bad about eating them. So yeah, Sunday's food was pretty clutch after I was just not having a phenomenal day and pretty tired and all. So that was my food. For my music, Shane sent me a playlist of some fall music. I had sent him a Snapchat of listening to, it's not a playlist of fall music, it's a playlist of country music. But I had sent him a Snapchat of me listening to some folk or country on my way to work or something, because it was a nice fall day out. And so he sent me this playlist, and it's really it's solid. It has a good mix of different country and folk and things like that.
Nice.
And so that it's on Spotify. It's called Tucker's CB Radio Playlist. So I don't know who this guy is, but he makes a pretty good playlist. So
sweet.
Yeah. And then for my visual medium, Colleen and I have been working our way through the Harry Potter movies. I've seen all of them to some extent. There are probably 4 of them that I've definitely seen all the way through, start to finish. I know what all is going on, but this is my first time watching them like kind of in order and actually watching the entirety of the movies. Most of the time that I had seen like stuff, it was bits and pieces from like ABC's Harry Potter weekend where you jump into the middle of like one of the movies at some point on a Saturday or Sunday that you're not doing anything and you're like, oh, like I could just throw this on TV and like hang out. So I'm like seeing things that or like getting more detail that I didn't necessarily pick up before and all. Like things with like Dobby and different stuff like that. And I'm just like, okay, this is I'm just enjoying going through them and actually like fully watching everything from start to finish without like interruptions or TV commercial breaks or whatever. So that's been cool to kind of go through.
Well, that's lovely to hear. I'm one of the biggest Harry Potter fans in the world, so that's exciting. We can do a deep dive when you're all finished.
Sounds good. I haven't read a single page of a book, so
that's okay. The movies stay true enough that you're fine.
Okay, cool. So, but how about you, man? Flavor of the week. What do you got for me?
So my flavor of the week, it's tight. I'm not a very flavorful guy. So my visual medium, me and Sarah finished Y: The Last Man. So the 10 episode run on FX on Hulu was over. We really enjoyed it. There were a lot of elements that were like we were like, what? And like, can you imagine? Like, no, like so many like really deep human things going on, some like kind of fucked up stuff, some like that doesn't look good.
Yeah, I might have to check it out. I've been meaning to, but I hadn't like pulled the trigger on it, so maybe I'll do that.
It's cool and like removed from the source material, removed from like, you know, this and that. I think it was great. I'd overall give it like a 9 out of 10 truly just for like my experience watching it, not like comparing it to anything else because I'm not sure if there'll be I'm not sure if there'll be more. It may get picked up on a different thing, whatever, it doesn't matter, but the 10 episode run that it does have I think was super strong and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that was cool.
Nice.
And then my food, Sarah made a steak dinner with potatoes, carrots, and buttered noodles. It's like one of her best meals. I've got that sitting right next to me, so that is going to be the flavor of the day for sure. And then my music, my boy Amine, who dropped last year, it has a teaser track out. It's called Charmander. I think you should check it out. The directing is really dope. The song is catchy, and it's an interesting idea. And once again, just a super cool visual art style. I think his taste is really strong, and the individual at the end, who's like knocking on the door talking about like it smells like shit. That guy is so funny. He has skits in a bunch of like Amine's videos and songs. So yeah, just really good stuff. I'm looking forward to Amine's record coming out. I think it's like 2.5 he called it, or nice. Like EP LP. There's something about it, but it's coming out soon. So yeah, man, that's my flavor of the week.
Nice. And I've heard some of his stuff and I've enjoyed it, but I know that you're a like big fan. You enjoy
Dude's
it a lot.
Heat.
So yeah. So I'll have to check that the song out, and then also like when the album drops, you'll have to let me know. So
yeah, man, it's all good stuff. But let us, Aaron, tell the listeners where they can find us, what to do.
Awesome. So we are all over the place for podcast platforms. We're on Anchor, Google, Spotify, so you can check us out there. We're also on YouTube, so of course you can find us with video and everything here on YouTube as well. And we're looking to, I'm going to start, continue putting timestamps in, so if there are certain segments that you're really interested in, you can kind of move around a little more fluidly, listen to what we're saying, and if that will help people find a way to interact a little bit better and all.
Yeah, just like hit the topics you want to hear about.
Yeah, feel free to hit us up. We are on Twitter on that note. So at tall and short of one, the number 1 on Twitter. So we're trying to get in the conversation. We'd love to hear some feedback and hear from y'all. But yeah, you can check us out all those places, and really happy to keep doing this for y'all.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for listening. Thank you for spending your valuable time with us. I second everything that Aaron said. You know where to find us. And this has been another episode of the Tall and Short of It podcast. Peace out, everyone.
Later.